Fellow Faso patriots, Esprit d'Afrique, listen up. What if I told you that we have been guarding a treasure chest, yet someone else has been quietly sneaking in, taking what they want and smiling while we scratch our heads? You'd call that betrayal, right? Well, that's exactly what Traore says has been happening, and the name on the agenda is Israel's uranium agenda across our continent. I'm your host from Global Pulse News, and today we unravel how President Ibrahim Traoré has publicly unmasked this uranium network, exposing what he claims is an audacious plot to siphon off Africa's atomic wealth under diplomatic cover. This is not abstract geopolitics. This is Burkina Faso's fight for dignity, sovereignty, and a stake in its own land. Over the next 7 revelations, I will lay bare every twist, from secret contracts, hidden supply chains, strategic maneuvers, to the backlash that's already beginning. Each fact will be fleshed out with local insight, biting critique, and yes, a dose of sarcasm to keep you sharp. So strap in, because what we're about to see may force you to rethink who really pulls the strings in African resource politics. Ready? Let's dive into Revelation 1. When people talk about mineral wealth in Africa, gold, cobalt, and diamonds get all the glam, uranium is often whispered about, hidden in the footnotes. But Traoré's first unveiling is, this hidden geography matters, and the map of Africa's uranium reserves and control lines has been deliberately blurred. Burkina Faso itself is not the top uranium producer, but it sits in a region brimming with untapped potential. Countries like Niger, Mali, and others host large uranium deposits. What Traoré reveals is that Israel, or Israel-backed entities, quietly positioned themselves near these deposit zones, inserted into mining leases, joint ventures, and exploration rights, often via intermediaries or shell companies. These moves were invisible to the average Burkinabe, masked in diplomatic language or hidden within foreign investment treaties. What's more, the map he shows isn't just geology, it's a power map. It indicates which states are vulnerable, which ones have contracts that look benign but whose royalties vanish, and which have strategic pipelines or processing rights tied to external interests. Traoré argues that many so-called friendly nations were unknowingly plugged into a system where the real yellow cake ends up exported to end users far away, while the local state sees only scraps. In our local tone, imagine a well-planted millet field, but some outsider dug a tunnel under the fence at night and has been shoveling soil away bit by bit, while you believed your land was untouched. That's what Traoré wants Burkina Faso and Africa to see now, that deposit maps are not innocuous, they are battlegrounds. But mapping the land is only the first move. The real scandal lies in how Israel allegedly inserted itself into those uranium supply systems. And that's our next revelation. Let me be very blunt. Diplomacy is often a Trojan horse. Traoré's second reveal is that Israel's engagement in Africa was never purely altruistic or tech aid-oriented. It was a strategic insertion into the uranium value chain. Under the cover of diplomatic visits, technology cooperation, security partnerships, Israel cultivated access to uranium exploration permits, processing rights, or offtake agreements. In countries where oversight is weak, these agreements often include clauses beneficial to the foreign party, like preferential export rights, long maturity contracts, or favorable tax exemptions. Meanwhile, local governments are told it's a development partnership, nuclear cooperation, or energy assistance. In simpler terms, Israel may have dressed its agenda in the clothes of friendship, security collaboration, or scientific exchange, while quietly ensuring that the uranium pipeline would favor their end. And because much of this is done through intermediaries, private firms, strategic investments, or shell companies, the local citizens see only vague announcements, occasional presence, and promises of infrastructure. To use local imagery, it's like someone offering to fix your well, donate a borehole pump, while secretly sinking a shaft under your yard to drain water into their canal. You see the pump, you don't see the undercutting. That's the audacity of what Traoré accuses. And he claims this wasn't random. These were pre-planned insertions aligned with global uranium demand, nuclear energy ambitions, and strategic influence, not mere coincidence. But of course, any modern extractive scheme carries echoes of colonialism repackaged. So in our next revelation, we go further, the colonial echo behind modern resource plunder.
Here's your third devastating reality. What Traore frames is not a new phenomenon, it's neo-colonial resource plunder, redesigned for the 21st century. The difference is subtle. Instead of guns and banners, the method now uses contracts, investment, and conditional aid. Traore's narrative is that Africa's resources, uranium among them, have been treated as global commons for external exploitation. In the past, colonizers directly controlled mines, railways, ports. Today, the mechanism is more insidious. You allow foreign firms to hold exploration rights, promise local processing and jobs, while the refining and high-margin stages stay abroad, accept curiously favorable tax breaks or minimal royalties, and allow outside firms to repatriate profits without stringent oversight. He warns that such contracts leave the state with the worst margins, while the foreign party gains the lion's share. Worse, local environmental damage, displacement of communities, and lack of transparency continue. The same mistakes of colonial extractivism, only now rebranded. Back home, many people will say, but they gave us schools, roads. Traore anticipates that. The so-called social package is framed as benevolence to distract from the underlying hemorrhage of value. The clever trick is to make the public believe something is better than nothing, while the actual gains are quietly drained elsewhere. In Burkina imagery, imagine someone telling you, "I'll give your child shoes, so now walk with me," while in the same breath they snatch grain from your storehouse at night. The generosity hides the grab. That is the colonial echo cloaked in modern guise. Transition to fact 4, but exposing the scheme is one thing, Traore has also revealed Burkina Faso's own leverage moves, because you can't fight if you don't wield some power. Revelation number 4. Traore doesn't stand naked before these extractive forces. He asserts that Burkina Faso wields leverage, and he's prepared to use it. He claims to have laid down strategic cards that many outside observers never saw coming. One such move, nationalization threats or reversals of certain contracts. By signaling that some mining rights, processing facilities, or export pathways may be reclaimed by the state, Traore raises the cost for foreign firms that overreach. This shift changes the calculus. If your rewards vanish because the state law changes, your safe bet isn't safe anymore. Also, he hints at legal and institutional pressure, introducing audits, renegotiations, or judicial challenges against opaque agreements. He argues that many contracts are legally vulnerable, drafted in secrecy, lacking proper parliamentary oversight, or signed under duress. By opening those cracks, Traore hopes to bring extractive deals back under scrutiny. Public mobilization is another card. Traore's tone suggests that exposing these deals fosters national pride, popular support, and moral pressure. Governments reluctant to be seen as selling out may balk under the glare of domestic resistance. Don't forget, Burkina Faso is part of the alliance of Sahel states with Mali and Niger. That group could share leverage, threaten to renegotiate together, or shut down cross-border flows if external actors overreach. In our language of fields, you may have planted many scarecrows, but now we light fires. We show we can burn in your hidden irrigation lines if you try to secretly siphon. Traore is signaling we're not defenseless. Transition to fact 5. But every move invites pushback. The moment you threaten entrenched interests, they strike back. So next, we expose the shadow diplomacy and threats already unfolding. Fact 5. This is the pressure chamber. Once Traore publicly unmasked the uranium agenda, the retaliatory currents began swirling. He claims the response is already in the shadows. Diplomatic pressure, threats, even economic levers employed quietly. Diplomatic channels, he suggests, have been activated. Foreign governments calling embassies, whispering consequences, threatening cuts in aid, or hinting at sanctions. In global politics, exposure can be met with isolation. If you raise too much hell, some will attempt to turn you into a pariah. Economic levers may follow: suspension of favorable trade status, conditional funding, freezing of development loans, or withholding infrastructure grants. For a country like ours, often reliant on external credit or projects, that's no empty threat. Further, there's talk of legal and international arbitration, challenging national moves in investment tribunals, or suing Burkina Faso for expropriation. These suits, even when weak, drain time, resources, and deter other states from following suit. And then there's covert pressure. Whispers of intelligence leaks, media campaigns painting Traore as unstable, or insinuations of security risk. When you unmask secret deals, the reaction is often to terrorize reputations. Traore's position is the moment you go public, the game changes. You move from negotiation to confrontation. And the trick of outside powers is to distract, divide, or intimidate you back into silence. In local imagery, like a farmer who lights a bonfire to drive away nighttime thieves, the thieves will try to douse the fire, throw smoke, threaten your home. But the flame is needed to keep them away. That's what Traore is doing with exposure as defense. Transition to fact 6, but exposure isn't just defense, it's contagious. The next revelation shows how Traore's move might trigger a Pan-Africa domino effect.
Here's Revelation 6. Traore isn't acting in isolation. He's potentially sparking a continental sovereignty moment. Once one state raises its voice, others may find the courage to question their own quiet deals. Imagine Niger, with its heavy uranium sector, watching Traore's exposure. If Burkina Faso can call out external actors and survive the backlash, others may feel emboldened to demand renegotiations, audits, or even cancellations. This could cascade. Mali, South Africa, Namibia, whoever has uranium or strategic minerals might see their chance to reclaim some dignity. In that emerging wave, Traore's role could shift from lone whistleblower to catalyst of African resource reclamation. He signals, if you can expose me, you can challenge your own elite silent compacts, and political alternatives may arise. States rewriting mining codes, demanding onshore refining, or reorganizing export methods. Moreover, regional bodies could support the trend. The African Union, ECOWAS, or the Alliance of Sahel states could propose collective protocols ensuring resource transparency, shared benefit rules, and resisting external capture. The strength lies in unity. Isolated states are vulnerable. United ones strike better deals. This is what Traore hints at, that we might be seeing the opening of a new chapter, one where Africa no longer tolerates extraction hidden behind so-called development partnerships. That shift, he hopes, could redefine international norms around resource sovereignty. In our local metaphor, when one farmer in a region speaks out about water theft, soon all the neighboring farmers shout too. Together, they reclaim their irrigation canals. Traore wants to be that first voice. Transition to fact 7. But ideas are not enough. To sustain that momentum, you must withstand risks. So, our final revelation dives into the realities, threats, and fragilities ahead. My final and perhaps gravest revelation: unmasking is the easier part. The real test lies in withstanding the blowback, securing viability, and staying true to the narrative. Traore's bold stand carries high stakes, and he knows it. First, legal counterattacks could drag Burkina Faso into long, costly arbitration. Foreign firms may sue for compensation, claiming contractual breach or expropriation. Even weak suits force governments to defend, divert resources, and sometimes capitulate under threat. Second, capital flight. International investors spooked by uncertainty may pull out funds, freeze new projects, or raise insurance costs. For a country needing investment, that can slow development, shrink revenue, and strain budgets. Third, infrastructure control. Many mines, processing plants, and export routes are under foreign or joint control. Regaining or restructuring control is logistically and politically complex. You cannot just snap your fingers and reclaim an entire industrial chain. Fourth, internal political fractures. Domestic elites who profited from old deals may resist through parliament, media, or behind-the-scenes pressure. The state needs unity, and dissenters will try to fracture support. Fifth, security vulnerabilities. In the Sahel, Burkina Faso faces Islamist insurgency, territorial contestation, and instability. Resources dedicated to defense are already stretched. A resource fight with global players adds strain. Context: Burkina Faso is facing persistent jihadist threats across its territory. Sixth, diplomatic isolation. Blaming powerful states may lead to severed alliances, frozen aid, or being painted as rogue. Maintaining regional and international alliances becomes harder when you threaten entrenched interests.
7th, managing public expectation. Citizens now believe in change. If renegotiation stalls or visible benefits don't arrive, disillusionment could grow. Traoré will need to deliver, not just symbolize. To use Burkinabe reality, walking through a minefield is easier with a machete, but the machete can't clear everything. Risks will remain. Traoré must navigate legal, economic, diplomatic, and security perils. But he seems willing to fight rather than bow. Transition to wrap. So, what does this all mean for Burkina Faso, for Africa, and for the world watching? What we've journeyed through, the map of hidden uranium power, Israel's strategic insertion, the colonial echoes repackaged, our counterplay and leverage, the brewing retaliation, the possibility of a Pan-Africa resonance, and the hard road ahead. Traoré's unmasking of Israel's alleged uranium agenda is not a casual accusation. In his framing, it's a declaration that Africa will no longer passively channel its riches to distant powers. For Burkina Faso especially, this is existential. Resource control, dignity, sovereignty, all at stake. Will Traoré falter under pressure? Possibly. Will some deals be renegotiated halfway? Probably. Will outside powers try to isolate or intimidate? Almost certainly. But the signal sent is loud. Exposure becomes defense, and the fight for resource sovereignty is no longer invisible. If the domino effect holds, this might mark a turning point. The moment when Africa collectively said, "We will not forever be the quarry. We will demand fair value, transparency, control." To my compatriots, to Africans, to watchers abroad, this is our moment to observe, question, advocate. Watch the next moves. In Niger, in Mali, in South Africa. If you want me to dig deep, country by country, contract by contract, or break down who's next to challenge external control, subscribe, hit like, and drop a comment. Which African state will lead the next resource sovereignty revolt? Share this video with your networks, because when knowledge spreads, power shifts. Stay alert, stay questioning, and I'll see you in the next expose for Faso, for Africa.